So, you've decided that you wanted to solo Elden Ring Nightreign. You're in for quite the challenge, but no worries, I'm here to help. Hi, my name is Hazeblade. I'm a professional speedrunner and former world record holder for Elden Ring, and in this guide, I'll be showing you how to optimize your solo mode gameplay, and along the way provide you with some valuable tools that you can take back to your squad to become even faster in your expeditions. If you're normally a team player, you might be tempted to pass over solo mode. But if you want to progress your account a bit faster, solo mode is definitely the way to go, provided you're up for the challenge. This is because of how the Remembrance quests work in Nightreign, which are important to complete because they unlock powerful relics for each of the Nightfarers. In multiplayer, they're kind of a pain in the ass to do since you can only have one quest active at a time. But in solo mode, you can spend time focusing on your own quests, and for the ones that don't require beating a Nightlord, you don't even need to survive all the way to the end of the third day. You can just let yourself die at the end of that day and complete the quest when you return to the Round Table Hold. In co-op mode, you can get away with a lot of character combinations, but in solo, character selection is crucial if you're playing to win. At first glance, especially on day one, you'll find that most characters can at least clear small camps and acquire a few upgrades, but unfortunately fall off in the back half of the run, particularly when you get to the Nightlord. In fact, some Nightlords will almost completely outrange melee classes, and others are just too fast or too tanky for support characters to keep up with. To be successful as a solo player, you'll need to consider your character carefully when choosing which Nightlord to fight, and frankly, out of all 8 playable characters, there's only a few of them that are viable for the average player. Executor makes the cut due to his unique playstyle, which is great for both offense and defense in most situations. He starts with a bleed weapon that can be built with up to 2 additional status effects, and his Cursed Blade offers a Sekido-like parry system with a weapon art that can deal holy damage and close the gap on distant enemies. His ultimate is also very tanky and heals him back to full health on activation. Just be careful though, because you can still die in this form if you take too much damage. On top of that, Executor's primary stat is Dexterity, meaning the use of bows is on the table for situations that demand range DPS, although he doesn't shoot as fast as Iron Eye. Raider is also a strong choice if you can deal with his slower moveset as a colossal weapon user. But you'll want to know going in that he's designed to take damage. In fact, his character skill becomes significantly more powerful if he takes enough damage prior to using it, enabling you to interrupt enemies in the middle of some of their most powerful attacks. His main drawback is that he lacks any range capabilities, so you'll want to use him mainly for Nightlords that remain on the ground. And last, but certainly not least, is Iron Eye. In fact, Iron Eye might objectively be the best all-around character in the game. As a ranged DPS, he's able to put out some serious damage with his bow without having to worry about FP, which is a drawback that other ranged characters deal with constantly since there's no FP flasks in Nightreign. But since Iron Eye doesn't rely on FP for any major skills, he can focus his passives purely on increasing his attack power and hitting hard from a distance. His character skill deals solid damage in melee range and leaves targets more susceptible to damage, on top of also being a great way to avoid damage as well due to its invulnerability frames throughout the duration of the dash. While his ultimate art ignores defense, has long range, interrupts enemies, and renders him completely immune to damage during the wind-up animation, in addition to dealing damage to surrounding enemies as well. While not the perfect choice for every Nightlord, he's the only character that possesses the speed and range to solo every boss without running out of resources or bogging down the fight. Once you've decided on the best character, the next thing to consider is which relics to go with. As a new player, your selection will be limited, but as you attempt more runs, you'll acquire new relics and in-game currency which you can spend in the Round Table Hold at the Small Jar Bazaar. The delicate relics, which give you improved critical hits, magic damage, and Sacred Blade, are available in the early game for 500 merc each, and are really great choices when you're just starting out. As your relic collection continues to expand, you'll want to keep an eye out for those that give you affinities like Poison, Frostbite, and Bleed on your starting weapon. Other useful relic effects include gains for your character's primary stats, improvements to their skill and ultimate art, increased rune acquisition, and affinity attack power-ups. When it comes to choosing your relics, you'll want to consider the Nightlord you're facing in addition to how your relics will make you more efficient at clearing the map. For instance, starting with a frost weapon might be really great in speeding up your camp clearing, but the Nightlord might be immune to frostbite, so you might choose relics to contrast with your frost weapon, knowing that it might be replaced later on. Once you've assembled your build, it's time to hop into an expedition and put it to the test. When you first drop into your expedition, take a moment and look at the map to start planning your route. Just like in multiplayer, you'll want to start at the camp near your drop zone and clear it to acquire enough runes to reach level 2. In solo mode, I recommend taking the time at this first location to open every chest and weapon rack and literally just grab everything that pops out. You'll of course be looking for as many useful passive effects from your weapons, as well as any consumables to complement your build. But you can sift through that stuff and make decisions while you're running to the next location without having to sit idle while you decide. Keep in mind that even if you don't plan on using the weapons you grab, the passive bonuses still strengthen you and can be invaluable if they're fit for your build. After popping by the nearby grace to level up, you're ready to begin your route, where you'll want to consider these key tips. In the map, you can see the affinities of numerous camps, and you can also press the indicated details button to get more information about each location. This page will tell you where clues and merchants are, as well as what weapon types you'll find there. Two things to note here is that the affinity icon next to the location doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to drop from clearing the area, but rather that that affinity will have greatly increased drop rates there. You can also infer what enemies you'll be fighting and whether or not you might want to avoid that location altogether as a solo player. Secondly, with the exception of the mage towers, the weapon types notated on the details page are also not based on the reward from clearing that location, but rather which weapon racks you'll find there. The mage towers, however, are guaranteed to contain at least one staff in the reward choices. With these details in mind, you'll want to target camps close to you while also considering which affinities you need so you can farm gear and level up as much as possible before the end of each day. Although time is of the essence, take a moment and review the merchant's shop during your run. All merchants share their stock, so if you see something you like but can't afford, you can keep it in the back of your mind for when you pass by one later on. On solo mode specifically, you'll also be able to purchase between 2 and 3 wending graces, which are single-use consumables that allow you to revive yourself if you go down. In patch 1.01, FromSoft added a passive buff that essentially gives you the same effect once per night, but in solo it's easy for one small mistake to end your run, so having as many of these as you can afford on top of the free one gives a healthy amount of room for error if you're prone to making mistakes. You'll find one in the shared shop, and one on day 3 from the vendor before the boss room. In some expeditions, you'll see this icon on your map, and if you visit the merchant at that location, you can purchase one that doesn't come out of the global shop inventory. And if you're especially lucky, you may even find them as a reward choice after defeating a boss. Level up every chance you get. In multiplayer, you can get away with occasionally skipping a grace and waiting to level up until you've got a plethora of runes, but in solo, every level matters, so be sure to pop by a grace as soon as you can when you've got enough runes to level up. You'll know you have enough when you see this arrow next to your rune level in the upper left corner of the screen. As you gain more experience navigating the map, learn which ones to avoid early on and save for day 2. Generally, you want to stay away from invader camps, which are indicated from the brackish-looking bubble around that site, as well as the central castle, the shifting earth zones, and certain roaming bosses. To touch on each of these briefly, the invader camps are a sort of supercharged camp with higher level enemies. Once you set foot inside, you'll be invaded by one or more NPCs. These locations in general can be brutal for solo play, but on day 2 become much more manageable when you're able to square off with invaders without getting one shot. The central castle is also an amazing day 2 location, but if you get a Crucible Knight castle, it can simply take too long to do on solo, as many of them use a shield and have a ridiculous amount of poise. That said, there's a ton of stuff there, and starting in the sewer accessible from the ravine is recommended. The shifting earth locations aren't always available as they're triggered at random between expeditions, but once again are best set aside for the mid-game as the circle will always zero in there on day 2. Plan to spend the entire day in this location on solo mode and plan your route accordingly when the day 1 boss goes down. As for the roaming bosses, some of them are fairly weak like the Leonine Misbegotten, the Miranda Flowers, and the Zamor Heroes, but you'll quickly learn through trial and error that some bosses are best saved for later, or in some cases not to be trifled with at all. Yes, I'm looking at you, Bell-Bearing Hunter. Seriously, this boss is super easy in Elden Ring, but in Nightreign, he is just an absolute nightmare. On the topic of bosses, you'll want to do your best to avoid bosses that pit you against multiple enemies, hereforth known as gank bosses. This tip isn't one you can ever completely avoid, as there are some nighttime gank bosses that you have to fight. But when it comes to the daytime, I highly suggest steering clear of these types of fights when playing solo. Note that some camps do require you to kill 2 or 3 champions to collect the reward, but these are fine since the knights are in different corners of the camp and you'll rarely face more than one at a time. But where this tip is particularly important is when it comes to Everjails. Everjail rewards tend to be somewhat underwhelming compared to other locations, and there's a lot of gank bosses in them. I'm not suggesting that you avoid them entirely, as acquiring stone sword keys takes little to no time once you know where they are, and sometimes you get an enemy that you can kill in a matter of seconds. But be prepared to run away and cut your losses if you get one with multiple enemies. Gank bosses in solo play take a long time to defeat, and with subpar rewards, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that it's simply not worth wasting your time on them. Speaking of time, use it to your advantage. There's lots of ways to save a few seconds here or there, and when you can, be sure to utilize them. Spirit Springs are one of these methods, and while the game intends for them to be used as a way of combating the verticality of Limveld, interestingly enough, they work as a great form of traversal across the map too. Sometimes it's actually faster to use a Spirit Spring jump to go from one location to the next versus just running there, and oftentimes you can use them to jump straight into the boss area for nearby encampments. Other methods to be efficient with your time can occur during the different phases of the day. For instance, when the circle begins to collapse, it may be tempting to rush to the safe zone and prepare for the next phase. But if you can maintain a healthy distance from the rain and pace yourself to the safe area, you can use that precious time to kill trash mobs on the way, which might make the difference of a level or 2 over the course of the expedition. If you do happen to get caught in the rain, be sure to drink when your health gets low and path your way through sites of grace to restore your health and flasks. You can also exploit time during the nighttime bosses, as you don't have to worry about the circle collapsing again until day 2. So if you need to kite and wait for your cooldowns to come back up, there's no shame in doing so. After the day 1 boss dies, you can further optimize your time management by heading out as soon as you claim your reward and popping by the grace. You may need to drink your flask once, but the storm will pass soon enough and you'll already be well on your way to the day 2 locations that you avoided earlier. Using the same strategies to tackle the higher level areas, your goal by the end of day 2 should be to land somewhere between level 13 and 15, with a full inventory of gear providing relevant passive bonuses, including an affinity weapon matching the Nightlord's weakness, and at least 20 to 30,000 extra runes to buy the Wending Graces from the merchants. If you're facing a shortage of runes at the end of night 2, this next tip is sure to get you caught up. After you finish off the Night 2 boss, you might feel like you're ready to hop right into the Spirit Shelter and begin prepping for the final boss. But getting ahead of yourself here might end up being your biggest mistake. Believe it or not, after you kill the boss, you're free to go out into the storm and grab items, kill enemies, and even shop at the merchants. You won't be able to stay out there long, as the storm will instantly kill you after about 2 minutes, but you won't fail the expedition if this happens, so you should be able to run back and grab your runes if you haven't strayed too far. Many of the bosses will have despawned, but some of them will still be there, meaning if you're still underleveled, you can run out and collect more supplies in close proximity to where you fought the nighttime boss. The Sites of Grace will be back online as well, so you can restock your flasks while you're out there. Just be sure to keep an eye on your health and return to the safe zone before the storm kills you or before you run out of flasks. During your first few day 3 attempts on a new boss, prioritize staying alive and learning the moves over trying to crank out damage. Although Elden Ring was very generous with Stakes of Marika and Sites of Grace, Nightreign couldn't be more different and managed to overtake Dark Souls 2 as the game with the absolute worst boss runback of all time, forcing you to endure 30 minutes of survival before you finally get a chance to face the boss again. Don't waste the chance to learn the right dodges, punish windows, and best use cases for your character abilities while you're battling the boss. Alright, Nightfarer, now you're armed and ready with everything you need to take on solo mode like you're the final boss. Whether you're in it for yourself or backing up the squad, being equipped with all the tools to hold your own already makes you a cut above the rest. For more help and tips with Elden Ring Nightreign, check out our ever-growing wiki on IGN.com, as well as my live stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Hazeblade. And for everything else, stick with IGN.